Good morning, nation. John here. Thank you very much for being here this morning. Welcome to Prepper Nation if you're brand new. And thank y'all for all the comments. I've seen them. I have to approve every single comment. So thank y'all for those. Just to let y'all know and to remind some folks, if you're not subscribed, I don't actually see any of the comments. It's preset to subscribers only. So be sure you're subscribed if you want to leave a comment, okay? So this morning, we're going to talk about some important stuff. Buckle up, okay? Most Americans will not survive what's coming. And we're going to dive into that this morning. We're going to start off with distractions. So yesterday we were talking about Trump and we got into distractions. I think major distractions are happening, and I've thought that for the past few days. And I want to talk about the two that really stand out for me. Two things that we're being, our attention's being pulled from and put somewhere else. And I want to explain what these two things are and why they're important and how that kind of feeds into the fact that most Americans are not going to survive, from here to 2030 and beyond. Okay. So the first is the banking collapse. A lot of y'all have been keeping up with the banking collapse. You understand what's going on. They're saying it's a banking crisis, I think is what I keep seeing in mainstream media, but it's a full-on collapse. We're talking about hundreds of billions with a B dollars that have just been vaporized, completely vaporized, in what seems like it started almost overnight, and this caused a run on many of the banks. A lot of people are still sitting around a week later like, where's my money? They still don't have their money. And to be honest with you, they may never get it back. They may never see that money. I don't know. But just as Mr. Jones, Alex, come on now, son. Just as he's predicted, the bigger banks, like the bigger 6 or 7 banks globally, they're swooping in and they're buying these, what assets are left of these other banks for pennies on the dollar. They're kind of consolidating power. So to give you an example here, Europe, if it was totally broken up, it's hard to control. Too many different governments, too many different parliaments and things going on, leaders, too many different people want too many different things. So they consolidate this by putting it into the EU. The same as the United States, right? They're consolidating power to Washington, D.C., all right? Or Washington, D.C. for you longtime subscribers. Y'all kind of corrected me on that one, though, several times. So what's going on in the banking industry, I think, is they're consolidating. They're taking away your ability to move outside, out of bounds, so to speak. They're taking that away from you. Eventually, I think your credit unions and your community banks will still be there, but eventually they're going to be absorbed by the big 6 or 7 banks because this is part of the reset. Digital currency is on the way. This stuff is already in the test phases, if you will, by the government here in the United States of America. So that's the first thing that I think they're trying to distract people from, okay? They don't want you to hear news about a total collapse in the banking system because that causes, or it should, I don't know anymore. People are not really independent thinkers anymore, but it should cause a run on the banks. People should say, oh my God, my money's not safe. But again, it's 2023. People are living inside cell phones, apparently. The second thing is the war in Ukraine. So there have been some changes, major changes, over the past few days in Ukraine by both sides. So on the Russian side, they are rebuilding some of the stuff that they claimed during a time of war. So they went in, they occupied it, they took a vote, y'all know what I'm saying, and then they annexed it and they said, you're part of Russia now. So they're almost finished with the rebuilding phase on some of that stuff. On Ukraine's side, they're losing. I hate to say it, but they're losing, and NATO cannot sit back and let Ukraine lose here. NATO has too much themselves to lose, or at least they think they do. NATO, and I will put this down below in the video description. There will be a link that says intel for anybody that's interested. NATO is talking about deploying 300,000 troops to the eastern border right next to Russia. So there's a couple of problems with this. Number one, we've been told for the last, 8 or 9 months that Russia's losing the war. Russia's on its heels. Russia has nothing left to fight with. So number one, why would you feel threatened by a country that's on its heels and getting ready to kind of collapse, militarily speaking? You wouldn't. This tells me that they've been lying to everybody for the last 8 or 9 months. Number two, isn't this exactly what Russia... Now, it's Russia, so they might be totally making this stuff up, but they're saying, we went into Ukraine because we don't want stuff stacked on our border. All right? We don't want it. This is why we got belligerent. This is why we initiated everything. This is their story, at least. I don't know. Again, I'm American, so I'm not over there. But why then, if you're NATO, would you stack another 300,000 troops on the border, the same disputed border that pissed Russia off initially? So you would do this because you want war, and you're trying to instigate a war. You're trying to get them to come after you. Nothing else has worked. You've tried everything else. You've badmouthed Russia and its leader on television. You've tried to shame them. You've sent tanks. Now you're sending aircraft. You've sent Patriot missile systems. You've sent aid. You've threatened. You've sanctioned. Nothing else has worked. So they're trying to draw Russia into a war. And I pray that, I pray they don't fall for it. But the reality is 300,000 troops is a pretty big deal. All right. This is not a regional conflict. This is not, hey, we're putting 2,000 additional soldiers in South Korea. This is 300,000 NATO troops. Let that number sink in. That tells me big conflict coming, son. Big conflict. In fact, not only are they considering deploying that many troops, they already have a ton there, and they've split up into 4 main battle groups on the Eastern Front. And they've said, NATO's actually said this now, if Russia crosses one of our red lines, we're going to go in direct combat. So 4 main battle groups. The whole thing is a mess. And this, I believe, this is just opinion, folks, on my part, I think this is going to be the 1-2 punch that just massacres the average person here in the United States that's trying to make it. You understand? Because when you think about it, banking and war, these two things, that everything that you need, like your entire lifestyle as a citizen of the United States, revolves around these two things. Because with war, you're getting into the prices going through the roof on everything, and they're already through the roof, but they're going to go up higher. You're getting into shortages that are out of control. You're getting into the possibility that China would then enter the war, stop sending us the stuff that we're heavily dependent on. And you're getting into the possibility of a draft. This affects real people in real time here in the United States. When you think about the banking system, collapsing, this affects your ability to draw your money out of the bank, use your money. Maybe you're not even trying to draw it out. Some of these people just can't move it around at this point because it's not there anymore. So this affects again, in real time, people's ability to buy food and the availability of food in the first place. This is fundamental stuff. And I think this is why they're distracting from these two things. Sure, you could get into Hunter, you could get into the shady stuff that went on there, and the man needs to be in prison, I'll tell you straight up. But that doesn't affect you and I in real time. Our ability to go to Winn-Dixie, for example, or Food Line, and buy food off of a shelf and be able to afford that food, it's not directly affected by something like that. All right, but war and a financial collapse, that's going to directly affect every single person here in the United States of America. So getting back to the original point here, most Americans are not going to survive what's coming. Think about it like this. Most people here in the United States in 2023 are depending on credit to keep them alive. Think about that. How many people do you know in your life? Maybe you are, and if you are, that's fantastic. How many people do you know that are totally debt-free, that spend cash on everything, that they don't have credit cards, they don't have lines of credit anywhere, and they're simply working, getting paid, using said money to buy what they need in the immediate? Not very many people. Most people at this stage in the game are borrowing money to pay for money they've already borrowed that they can't pay back, that they had borrowed to pay for other debt. You understand? People in this country are drowning in debt. With the pandemic and the Build Back Better and all that stuff, son, people are drowning in debt. I mean, they just can't sustain it. And then factor in that your average American has 3 days or less of food at home. 3 days. If something beyond 3 days happens, these people literally will starve. They will begin to deteriorate at that point, unless a mysterious brown box from the federal government shows up at their doorstep. They have no idea what to do. Maybe they call friends, maybe they call family. But again, the problem is most of them aren't prepared either. The hard reality is what we face a total financial collapse, and we face this as we enter World War III. And most people here at home, the sad truth is they're not prepared for that. They've not been prepping. They don't have what they need at home. And on top of that, they're living their lives on credit. And I mean, what happens when food prices double? Again, they've already doubled. What happens when this happens again? We get caught up into a war. The grain stops flowing completely. What happens? Because we're still, look at our administration. They're not going to keep, we have enough farms to keep America in it. But our administration is going to ship that off, folks. They're going to export that out. It's a clown show. What happens when the food doubles? Can you afford that? What happens when the gas prices explode? They're already kind of high still in my area. You ready for $8 a gallon gasoline? You ready for $9 a gallon? I mean, really? Can you afford it right now? Most Americans can't. What happens when your utility bills triple because of war? Triple, folks. They've already doubled and in some cases tripled. Why not triple them again? That's the reality that we face, okay? Are you ready for that? Are you ready for the United States to become a nation that has no more medication? Because the number one import, the place that we go to for medicine, our dealer, China, is now involved in a war and they're backing another country. You understand what I'm saying? Are you ready for a United States in which you can't get vital medication? Do you have a plan for that? And while all of that's going on, of course, you're going to have social chaos. People can't afford things. They do what? They steal things. They rob. Home invasions, stuff like this, social chaos all over the place. Are you ready for that kind of America? Because that's what's coming. I'm not trying to gloom and doom here or anything like that, but it's facts. These are facts this morning. All right? If you can't hold it, you don't have it. There's a reason gold and silver through the roof right now. And I ain't trying to sell y'all gold and silver. I don't have an affiliate link down for that crap below. I'm just saying. Commodities, physical commodities are worth things right now. Numbers on a screen and promises to pay written down on pieces of paper with a dead president's face on it are virtually worthless right now, and it's only going to get worse. Anyway, thank you for being here. Remember, if you want to comment, be subscribed. It is truly appreciated. We'll be having a live stream next day or two or something like that. Y'all let me know in the comments. God bless.